Hi guys! So I'm back with another Planner Addict dilemma, what to do about my daily planner for 2017. I think some of you are already familiar with this dilemma because I mentioned it in a video a couple of weeks ago. So it's kind of been in the back of my mind for a while now, but with the new Hobonichi launch only days away, it has kind of turned into a really major issue, occupying a lot of space in my Planner Addict brain. So I just thought, as usual, it would be nice to share it with my fellow planner addicts. Basically, a few months ago, I started using a daily planner, and that was just like a revelation to me. I've talked about this in other videos, about how it's just so nice to be able to have one long to-do list with everything that you need to do, whether it's work or personal, routine stuff, one-off stuff, and just set it out in chronological order, more or less, from the beginning of the day to the end of the day. I find that hugely satisfying and very comforting on days when I feel like I have a lot of stuff to do and it's really stressful. So the first daily planner that I used was this A5 Stylogy notebook. And at first I thought this is nice because it's got the dates that you can circle at the top. It's undated, but you can fill in the months and the days. And then at some point I realized that I didn't really need to do that because I was using one page per day and it didn't matter. So I just stopped doing that. Then I had another breakthrough, which was that because it's undated, and this was the first time that I'd really used an undated planner, I could switch in and out without repercussions, which is obviously every planner addict's dream, right? And because you're just using one day per page and it's just a to-do list, you don't have to go back and reference earlier days because all of the information is pulled from my work planner or my personal planner. So it really is just a running to-do list, and I don't need to go back and check things or know what the date was for any particular thing. I just open it to the most current page and that's it. So then I thought, okay, I can kind of channel my desire for constant change from a planner point of view and use more than one planner. And then I started using this Batman Moleskine, which I really, really liked. So again, the same system, just one page per day, that's it. And it's very liberating because, you don't have to worry about whether you've got enough room or where you're going to put things. You just running to-do list. And as you can see, some days there actually aren't very many things, which is kind of comforting. Other days there are a lot more, but just the act of writing it down in order is very helpful. So I was kind of switching in and out. I also had a Moleskine dot grid, which I really liked. This is a Leuchtturm, but it's the same idea. I love the dot grids. I don't think they're showing up very well there, but the dot grids are just my absolute favorite. They're beautiful. No practical reason because it's not like I need to, draw any kinds of geometric shapes or layouts or anything on this, but I just like the way they look. So that was what I was doing until One Book July. And then when One Book July hit, I decided to see if I could live without the daily planner. And I managed that for a couple of weeks. And then I decided that I needed it again. Or, well, I missed it. I liked having it. And so when I went back to it, I decided to use this Hobonichi A6 avec. And the reason for this was that I had been using my avec, the first half of it, from January to June, as my gratitude journal. And when One Book July came, I decided that I wanted to incorporate that into my personal planner, which has been a great success, and I'm happy about that. But that meant that the second half was unused, and I wanted to use it for something, and I thought the daily planner would be the obvious thing to try because I have always had a kind of weird relationship with the A6 Hobonichi. As you know, I am a huge, huge Hobonichi fan, and I love the Cousin and I love the Weeks, and those are like my unicorn planners for my work and personal planners. But the A6 somehow had never found its right niche with me, and I really like it. This was the second year that I'd had one. The first year I tried the A6 as a home planner, and that didn't work because it was too much space for us. We didn't need a daily planner with this much room. And then I tried using it as a personal planner, and that also didn't work, again, because the daily layout wasn't really what I needed. And so the next year, so this was like a year ago at the same time, when I was thinking about my Hobonichi order, I was kind of torn between trying the A6 again as a personal planner and trying the Weeks. So because I wasn't sure and I'd never used the Weeks before, I didn't know if I would like it, I decided to order both of them just so that I would, be able to use one or the other. And then I thought, well, I'll figure out a use for the other planner. And obviously with Hobonichi, because it has the relatively high shipping cost, and also in the EU, we've also got huge customs charges, which can be as much as like the whole order altogether, including shipping sometimes, which is just ridiculous. It's very erratic. Sometimes it's less than that. It's hard to tell. Anyway, so it's always better to like kind of order everything at once, because then you don't have to pay twice for the shipping and the customs. And so I ordered both of them, and then I decided to go with the weeks, and then I decided to use this as a gratitude journal, which had previously been incorporated into my personal planner. So that worked fine, but as I said, I kind of felt like it started to become a burden, and I wanted to incorporate it back into my personal planner again. But that was really the only thing that I'd ever sort of been able to use this successfully for, because I used it for 6 months. And now that I've been using it as my daily planner, I've found that it works perfectly, and I love it. And so I feel like this is like kind of what the A6 was meant to be for me. It just works amazingly because it's small, it's very portable, but there's enough room, which I'd been kind of worried about because I'd been using these A5 notebooks. And so I thought, oh, I need A5, A6 won't be big enough. But I think because the grid paper is so small, it actually helps you to write a lot smaller. And that means that you can fit more on the page. And it's got 2 columns. So as you can see, I've been using it for like a month and a half now, and I've never run out of room. There have been a couple of times when I've come close to finishing the page, or like I've got down to the bottom of the page. This page I actually would have had more room, except I started decorating a bit, so I covered up a few lines, but then I could just start over on the other side, and I've never had an issue with running out of space. So when I discovered that, I was like, wow, now I've got the perfect use for the A6, and that means that finally I'm using all 3 Hobonichis, which was kind of always like my secret Hobonichi geek dream to find a use for all 3 of the different ones. So I've got my work planner, my personal planner, and my daily planner, and that's just perfect. The 3 of them together, that's just like my happy little trio of Hobonichis, and I love it. So that was very satisfying. Now the dilemma comes in with the fact that this obviously runs until the end of December. So the question is, what should I do for 2017? Because I'm going to be making my Hobonichi order next week, I have to decide whether to buy a new A6 or not. And I've really been going back and forth. The pros of ordering a new A6 are, as I said, I've just finally achieved my perfect trio of Hobonichis, and I love the way they all work, and I kind of feel like they work in harmony, and it's a really nice system. And somehow it's very satisfying to have cracked the A6 puzzle, because for 2 years I've been like, I'm not really sure what to do with the A6. I like it as a gratitude journal, but I don't really want to have a separate gratitude journal because it's a bit overwhelming. It didn't work as a home planner, didn't work as a personal planner. It works perfectly as a daily planner. I don't use the vertical monthly layout or the month on 2 pages, which you might say is a bit of a shame, like I'm not using it to its full potential, but it's okay. I'm using essentially the whole thing. And as you can see here, from the time I started, I've used pretty much every day. There have been a few days when I didn't need it, either because I was out the whole day or because I just, like sometimes on Saturdays, because that's my day off, like I don't really have, long to-do lists like I do during the week. But for the most part, I've pretty much used it nearly every day, so I don't feel like the fact that it's dated is a constraint. Maybe the fact that it's dated makes me a bit more keen to use it every day, but it's actually been a nice thing. It hasn't felt like a pressure, because if I don't need to use it, I don't use it, and it's only like one day here or there. So I kind of feel like I would be getting my money's worth if I were to use it again in 2017. If I did order it, I would order the full year version rather than the avec, because I would know that this is what I wanted it for. I ordered the avec because I was thinking that I might use it as my personal planner, and then I wanted it to be slimmer in case I wanted to do a lot of decorating. But for my daily planner, the most that I would do is put like 1 sticker on the day, just a kind of touch of color and nothing more than that. So I don't really need it to be slimmer. And I also wouldn't take this out of the house, because my daily planner is really only something that I need when I'm at home. If I'm at if I'm at work, so basically if I'm out all day, that means that I'm at the university or like at a summer school or some type of work related thing like a conference, and then I really don't need a daily planner because I just put everything in my work planner, and I've also got my personal planner with me. So it's really only when I'm at home that I have these like long kind of lists of routines that have to be done, and that's more because if I'm at home I will do things like, if James is at work, then I have to take out Tails and Mochi on their walks and I have to feed them, and I also then think of things like doing the laundry or ordering something for, you know, like for the house, like, so somehow because I'm working from home I don't have very good boundaries and I end up just doing everything all together at the same time, and that's why it's nice to have this whole list. And then in the evenings as well, it's kind of nice to know, like, if I'm going to be making a video and we have to make dinner and then we want to like take the boys, the dogs on their final walk and like all of that kind of stuff. So if I'm away at a conference, I don't need any of that. Anyway, so that's just an explanation of why I wouldn't have to carry it with me and why it can be like nice and chunky. And I think that the idea of having a whole year's worth of daily planning, I love the idea of being able to look back on that and see like, oh, what was I doing? Just because I don't keep a journal, so it's kind of fun looking back at the old pages of the planner, and it's also very satisfying seeing it grow throughout the year. That's why I like bound planners, because you get the whole year is together, and then at the end of the year you have this, it's like a snapshot of your completed year. Even though it's only mundane tasks, it's still, I quite like it, because then I'd be like, oh yeah, I was doing that. That's what I was doing in August. And this is actually a reason why I like that it's dated, because I don't bother dating it. As you see with this, I just couldn't be bothered to date it, because ironically for a planner addict, I don't always like know what date it is off of the top of my head. So I'd have to check another planner, and usually when I'm using my daily planner, it's because I feel kind of stressed about having so many tasks to do and I just want to get it all down on paper, and then I just don't go back and date it. And practically I don't need it to be dated, because like I said, you just turn to the last, you know, the first unused page and you start from there. So it's not a practical thing. But then I've already actually at several points, even though it's only been like a month and a half, I've looked back and it's like, when did I start using the daily planner? Oh yeah, it was on the 14th of July. And then, oh, that's what I was working on then, or that's when I ordered that. And it's just kind of, I don't know, I like it. So the other issue is that I feel like if I didn't order this, that I might regret it, and then I might end up having to order it separately, and then I would have to pay the extra shipping and the extra customs, and I would be like, why didn't I just order it the first time around? And for that reason, and also because I love it so much and I'm really enjoying using it, and I like the idea of having the trio of perfect Hobonichis and just living in Hobonichi planner paradise forever after, James has said that he thinks that I should get this again, because otherwise he thinks that I'll regret it. And I guess I could buy it again, and if I decided not to use it as a daily planner between now and the 1st of January, I could find some other use for it. But having said that, let's move on to the cons. So just talking about all these pros is kind of like talked me into it again a bit, but when I set up to make the video, I was actually leaning away from it. So now let me explain why, and then maybe I'll swing back that way again. This is why it's such a dilemma. So cons. First of all, obviously I'm a planner addict and I like buying planner supplies, as you know, but I also am quite conscious of the fact that I have a lot of notebooks, and I have a lot of planner supplies, and I have a lot of planners, and I would like to use the ones that I have. I'm not saying that I want to go on a no spend, because, you know, let's face it, that is not realistic for me, and that would be silly, and it would make me really depressed, because planning is like my only hobby and I love it. So the thought of not being able to buy any new planning supplies is just, I don't want to do it. But I would like to kind of put myself in a position where I'm like sort of forced to use what I have, because I know that I would enjoy it, because the things that I have, I bought because I liked them. And if I really don't like something, then usually I get rid of it. So I feel like if I buy another A6 just because I've been enjoying using it as my daily planner, then because it's dated, that means I would have to use it for the whole year. And I would be committing myself to using it for all of 2017, or else I would have to abandon it halfway through, which would make me feel bad, and then I'd have to try to think of another use for it for the rest of the year. And I hate having a planner that's like kind of partially used for one thing and then is used for another thing, because I'm extremely OCD in that respect, as you probably already know. So I feel like if I go in for this, that's it for the year. I would really, really want to use that for the year. And I think I've been pretty good about that with Hobonichis. Like I've used my cousin. This is the second year that I've had a cousin. I used the first one for the full year, and it wasn't a problem because I loved it so much. It didn't feel like a burden. And then my weeks, I've been using it since November. I started it a month early, and I'm going to get another week's. And so I feel like when I really love the planner, using it for the whole year isn't a problem, but I do still like some flexibility. So I'm sort of concerned that if my entire system, pretty much, my work planner, my personal planner, and my daily planner was all fixed, then I might start to feel bored, because I think that's part of the issue with switching out, is that we just want to try new things. And it's not necessarily that we don't like what we're using. It's just that, you want something new sometimes. So being able to have my daily planner, because it's the one that doesn't need to be dated, being able to have that as like a flexible option that I can always switch out whenever I want to without consequences is really nice, because that means that it's like a safeguard against me getting bored and feeling like I can't try any new planners. Because I think what would happen then is if I had this completely set, then this would not be switch outable, and that means I would have to invent some other use for a planner so that I could try out a new one. And then I would end up in the situation that I usually get to by July, where I have like 12 different planners, which I think is okay, but it can get a little bit unwieldy. So I'd rather kind of try to restrict it a bit. So that's one thing, is that one thing is kind of the desire not to just like keep buying new things when I've already got things that I could use instead that serve the same purpose. Another reason, obviously, is that it would save some amount of money. And then another reason is that I would get to use all of these different notebooks, which at the moment are just kind of languishing unused. So like this one, I started and I used it, like it's got a few pages used. And so now I don't want to use this for something else, because it's a daily planner. And it would kind of unnerve me if I started using this as, I don't know, like a homework book for a language class or something, for example. The same goes for this one. This, like, poor thing is only, it's had the first few pages used, and I would like to continue using the rest of it because I really like it. And then I've also got all these other cool notebooks, like this one with the dot grids, and the Moleskine with the dot grids that I mentioned before. And then I have quite a few paper blanks notebooks, which I haven't started using yet, but I bought them for this purpose because I got really into the idea of the undated daily planner, and I was like, yes, this is where I can just switch out all the time. I could use a different daily planner every day and have them on a rotation, because it doesn't matter, they're not dated. And I do like the idea of that, because that means you get to use all of your stuff. So that's like one issue. If I go for the A6, the Hobonichi, then I won't be able to use any of these, at least for 2017. And that seems like a shame, although it's not the end of the world because they are undated. Then the other thing is that I've got all of these covers, and this is a ridiculous number of covers to have, I know, especially the fact that I have 3 of these Disc Agenda Serene personal size covers, which is really over the top, but what can you do? I am a crazy planner addict, and I bought all 3 of them because I love the colors so much. So I actually bought these with the intention of using them as covers for my daily planners, which I was thinking I can switch out, and then that will be kind of like the excitement of using a new planner all the time, even if I'm using the same actual book. The problem with this is that, as I mentioned in the review video, these are a lot bigger than I was expecting. I was expecting them to be kind of like closer to the size of a personal size traveler's notebook, which actually fits an A6 Hobonichi very well. So I was thinking that I could use the A6 in here, but as it turns out, it's just like much bigger, and the A6 is dwarfed in it, and I think it looks kind of silly, so it's not a good fit. There is an A6 Stalogy notebook, which I have ordered, and I know that kind of like contradicts what I said about using the supplies that I have, so I'm clearly hopeless, but I'm just trying to limit the damage. And then I discovered that these MIDI-sized paper blanks notebooks are actually B6. They don't call them B6, they call them MIDI, as you can see here, but it is basically B6 size, and they fit really nicely in here. So I could kind of fulfill my dream of like switching out all kinds of different notebooks and using them with different covers, and just have lots of fun with my daily planner. And so one day this could be my daily planner, and then the next day Batman could be my daily planner. and so on and so forth. And I could just, have a great time switching them in and out, and it would be awesome. The other thing that I could do is use a traveler's notebook. So I really like this traveler's notebook, and I've got this is personal size, and I have personal size inserts, which I haven't been using. So I could just use like one of these per day. And that would be another, daily planner that I could add to the collection. So I could have like 5 different daily planners and say like use a different one every day or use one a week or something. And then I would just feel like I'm using tons and tons of planners, which would be very satisfying. The other really cool thing that I could do is, this is my personal planner. And I say it's personal in that I use it for my personal stuff as opposed to work stuff. It's not personal sized, it's a bit bigger. It's the perfect size to fit the Hobonichi weeks. Somebody suggested to me that it looked like a B6 Slim, which probably makes sense because it's the same height as these ones, and these are basically B6 size. So if the B6 is wider, that makes sense. Anyway, what I recently discovered that I could do is, so this has, obviously, it has the long elastic and then the short elastic, and the short elastic is the perfect size to fit a personal size insert. So this is a personal size wallet insert, and look at what I could do here. So I could put this in here, and then I would have a daily planner insert that would be in the same traveler's notebook as my weeks, which would be awesome because then I wouldn't have to worry about taking it with me or not. And even on days when I was out, if I wanted to, I would still have a daily planner. And because this is just an insert, it's kind of disposable. So like when I got to the end of it, I could just recycle it, because I don't really need to keep them. And then I could put a new one in. So it's not too bulky. See, if I close this, it doesn't really add to the weight or like to the size by much. It's quite a slim insert. I could also put one of the A6 Hobonichi inserts in here, I think, although the personal is a bit narrower and taller, so it's probably a better fit. And I've got a few of these personal size notebooks anyway, so that would be awesome. And I could just have this as a kind of like a sort of supplement for days that I went out. Actually, even if I got this one, I could do this anyway and just have that in there so that I could have a daily planner when I was out. That's something to think about. Or like extra note pages. Because the Weeks has note pages, but because it's a bound book, I'm quite cautious about using them. Although I have tons and tons of note pages left, but I've sort of adopted a very careful attitude because there's nothing worse than running out of pages in your bound book and then not having any more notes pages, and having like 2 months left till the end of the year. But the Weeks has actually been really good. I have a whole bunch of extra note pages. So that's beside the point, but that's still kind of an interesting idea that I like. So I could use all of these different planners and then, never worry about getting bored and use up all of the supplies that I already have, not spend any more money on the one hand. But then on the other hand, I love this so much, and it kind of makes me sad to think that I wouldn't have my A6 Hobonichi anymore because I just really got into it. And like I said, I just love the idea that I have this perfect unit of the 3 Hobonichis and that they're like working in unison to bring the ultimate planning experience of work, personal and daily. And so the idea that I wouldn't have that anymore makes me very sad. And also then I wouldn't be able to use any of the cool A6 covers that I've got. So my favorite one is the sack cover from Hobonichi. And, it's perfect A6 size. And none of the blank notebooks that I've got at the moment are A6. And I don't want to buy any more because if I'm going to buy another notebook, then I might as well buy this. Although this is probably more expensive than, say, like an A6 Leuchtturm or something would be. But anyway, the point is that my A6 covers would kind of be out of commission, although that's like a minor point. But the other thing is as well that, so I would be able to use all of these covers. These are all A5 covers, and at the moment they're going unused because I'm not using any of these planners. So like, look at all of these things that I would be able to use. I can't even get them all in the frame. It's just like a gigantic stack of opulent planner addiction gone mad. So that is very exciting, but could that then like sort of be too much of a good thing? Like if I am alternating between all of these different daily planners, I wouldn't get confused because they're not dated and they're all doing the same thing. So it really doesn't matter. It's just one day I would use one, the next day I would use another one. But I kind of feel like the thing that I was talking about before, where it's like nice to kind of flip through and see, oh, this is what I was doing like last September. I wouldn't be able to do that because they would all be scattered throughout all of these different planners. And also that means that it would take me like 10 years to finish any of them. Because if I'm using this one day and then using this the next day, or, you know, like, I don't know, 1 week in 1 week or something, then obviously it's going to take me, you know, that much extra time before I get through one and complete a book. And I think there is something satisfying about completing a whole book. So like all of this is just, it's just psychological. It's like, it really doesn't matter if I use an A6 Hobonichi or a traveler's notebook or a bound Moleskine or whatever, or rotate through them. But this is like kind of the situation. On the one hand, I really like the idea of getting to use all of these different notebooks and planners that I have acquired. And I sort of feel like if I were to buy another A6, aside from spending more money and, you know, using more resources when I've already got all of this stuff, then I would like kind of be cutting myself off from the possibility of using any of it for the year. And if I got sick of the Hobonichi, then I would kind of feel guilty about abandoning it. Whereas with these, because I would always be rotating, or even if I decided just to use one, like let's say I was like, okay, I'm just going to use this for the year or until it runs out. If I did get bored of it, then I would be like, okay, fine, I'll just switch to this one and no harm is done because it's undated. So that's the situation. Now that I've presented the whole thing, I'm just as confused as I was before. I've kind of talked myself a bit back into the A6 because it's just so neat and tidy, and I kind of like the idea of just having these 3 planners. And because all of these are undated, they will wait. So they will just be patiently there sitting on the shelf until I find another use for them. And because I've got such a good rhythm going with the A6 here, I kind of feel like it would be a shame to abandon it. But then on the other hand, it's just a to-do list and, you know, it works just as well in one of these. So that is the situation. This is my current planner addict dilemma. Please don't laugh at me, but that is what I'll be thinking about. So I will keep you updated because I'm going to have to make a decision quite soon ahead of the Hobonichi store opening next week. So I hope that you enjoyed my planner addict ramblings as always, and thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and I'll be back again soon. Bye.